Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. As Mike's Talks and Thoughts here, back again with another video for you guys. And today we are here with the 2-year anniversary video here for my channel. Now of course for my 1-year anniversary I did my top 100 TV characters, and now today we are here with the top 100 TV episodes here. This is a trend that I have been posting about on TikTok here with some of my favorite TV episodes, and today I thought I would make a great video and follow up for my 1-year anniversary, for my 2-year anniversary for the channel, with my top 100 TV episodes here. And now for these episodes here, I will be going in depth here with these episodes, so if you've not seen that episode that I'm talking about, there will be spoilers here for that episode. I want to just go in depth and give thoughts and reasoning for why it's ranked in the top 100 here. And as well, if you're expecting an episode here that did not make the list, good chances I probably haven't seen that show. For the course of the show is not represented on the list here. There's still a ton of TV that I haven't seen, but I think I have seen a good amount here to give a fair judgment to all of these episodes, and all 100 of these are some of my favorites of all time. I would give every episode in this top 100 a 10 out of 10. These are just amazing episodes, so many to choose from. And yeah, without further ado, let's get started here. Coming in at number 100, we have Long-Term Parking from The Sopranos. Long-Term Parking, this is one of the most infamous episodes of all time, and for good reason. This is one of the better plot twists and suspenseful episodes, not only of The Sopranos, but of just TV in general. This is a great episode. I do think that this episode is a little bit overhyped, but it's still a 10 out of 10 episode. The conversations between Tony and Christopher, and find out all about Adriana, which we have been worrying about throughout the whole season, comes to a conclusion here in just a badass way. And again, one of the better episodes, of course, from The Sopranos, and an all-time classic. Number 99 here, we have Blues Brothers from Drake and Josh. This is one of my favorite comfort TV episodes of all time. The performance at the end of the Blues Brothers is one of my favorite performances in TV history. This is just such a really good episode for making you laugh, making you happy. Josh is, very embarrassed at this time. He goes on the Weather Channel with his father and ends up tweaking out on there, and everyone starts making fun of him. And of course, Drake is trying to beat this rival, of course, in the talent show, and it all comes together perfectly with that end song. And one of the greatest performances. Anytime I need to be lifted up or just see something great, this is one of my favorite episodes to go to. A classic from an all-time classic Nickelodeon show in Drake and Josh. Coming in here at number 98, we have Time's Arrow from BoJack Horseman. Now, Time's Arrow here, season 4 is probably my favorite season of BoJack Horseman. This is just a interesting season, and I really like the backstory of this episode, following Beatrice Horseman, BoJack's mother, and finding out that Time's Arrow stops for no one. And it's one of my favorite messages in the show, and it's just a really well done episode on her backstory and giving her character more development, and you find out more about her relationship with BoJack. And this is, I think, one of the more underrated episodes of the show. Everyone talks about Free Churro and The View from Halfway Down, but Time's Arrow, I feel, is easily in the top 5 or top 3 episodes from BoJack Horseman. Coming in here at number 97, we have Starting Now from Barry here. The season 3 finale of Barry was an all-time classic, man, and I cannot wait to see what they have in store. At the time of filming this video, we are still waiting on the finale of Barry, but Starting Out was my favorite episode from Barry. This is just an all-time culmination of Barry, of course, trying to sneak away from being caught, and just him being caught at the end was insane. Something that I did not see coming. I did not see Barry, of course, going to jail, or I thought he would get away with it, and of Of course, the whole storyline with NoHo Hank as well, Fuchs, Gene Cousineau, and even Detective Moss here getting in this crazy world of Barry is one of my favorite episodes of all time, coming here at number 97. Coming here at number 96, we have Charlie Work from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. This is the most recognized, I would say, episode of It's Always Sunny, and it is just an all-time classic. Seeing Charlie and the health inspector in that one take, it's like a 10-15 minute long one take of Charlie just going throughout the entire bar here at Patty's and all the shenanigans that the gang gets up to. Frank, of course, flushing his shoes down the toilet, Dennis being the bartender saying, all right, you know, this health inspector, them ordering 4,000 steaks. It's just a classic here from It's Always Sunny, and definitely one that if you haven't seen, you gotta check out just from a pure comedy standpoint. Coming in here next at number 95, we have Tribal from Banshee here. This is one of my favorite one setting episodes of all time. This tribe, of course, in Banshee terrorizing the police station and them trying to defend it is just an epic all-time classic here, man, with so much emotion. Just like I said, them feeling trapped and surrounded by this group here in Banshee, this antagonist. It's so great, and it's even crazier when you see, you know, Kai Proctor is in the jail with them, and of course just seeing all of the other people, Sheriff Lucas Hood and Bunker here trying to fit in with this new group. He's just so out of place, but man, I just love the attack on this little police station. It was an epic showdown, made you feel so tense and great at building suspense. Coming here next, number 94, we have Chocolate with Nuts / Mermaid and Barnacle Boy 5. Now, SpongeBob has these episodes here placed as 2 and 1, so I'm counting that as just, you know, one singular episode here, but these two are all-time classics here from one of the best childhood shows of all time. Chocolate with Nuts, of course, Patrick and SpongeBob try and become salesmen and try selling chocolate here. It's some of the most iconic scenes from the show come from that. You know, the guy yelling chocolate, the scam artist, the old lady, of course, asking to have chocolate rubbed on her. It's just so classic, so funny, so rewatchable. And then you have Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 5, where Barnacle Boy joins the dark side here with the Dirty Bubble and Man Ray here. Just an all-time classic here. Some of the funniest scenes as well. With the group basically becoming the Avengers, you know, getting all these new superpowers. Some epic scenes here, and just two great episodes into one. Can't go wrong with those here for the top 100. Coming here next at number 93, we have Excellent, of course, from Regular Show. This is my buddy MVG Nick's favorite episode from Regular Show here, and with good reason, man. This is a absolute banger. Mordecai and Rigby trying to win this trucker's hat that says Excellent on it. Rigby, of course, tries to attempt it first, and you find out that he's allergic to eggs, so he can't win the hat. He goes into the coma, and Mordecai vows that he will win this hat for Rigby. And of course, he's trying this challenge and cannot win. You find out about this guy who used to work at the park who tried the challenge and just disappeared one day, and no one knows what happened to him. They thought that he just would never beat this challenge. Mordecai is able to find the techniques here, and the owner of the restaurant sees that he is about to, of course, beat this challenge, and he's, you know, freaking out that he's about to beat this challenge. And the whole group from the park, Muscle Man, Benson, High Five, Ghost, Skips, all come and try and defend him while he's finishing this omelet in this big challenge. He wins, and you get thrown into like this Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones type feel, where he's sent to this, you know, I guess we'll say the Shadow Realm, and he has to pick what hat, you know, and that takes you back to the first part of the episode where you know what the hat looks like, and he is able to grab the hat, give it to Rigby. It wakes him up from the coma here, And you find out, of course, that the guy has like a whole bunch of those hats just stored away. It just makes it even more funny how just insane this episode was for something like that. Endlessly rewatchable, amazing episode. Coming here at number 92, we have Stench and Stenchability from Futurama. And this is one of the ones that is probably one of the lower rated on IMDb that I have on this list. But this is just an all-time classic for just like a romance episode, and it was really great coming at the end of the show here. I think that 4-episode run in the last season here for Futurama, season 10, was absolutely incredible. And this is one that is so great because I love Zoidberg as a character, and him just trying to go out and find love, and you know, this woman sort of accepting him for who he is, and it brings you so much joy and happiness because, you know, you find this woman who is selling flowers, and of course Zoidberg has this aroma to him to where a lot of people cannot stand him, but you find out that this woman cannot smell, and you know, she actually likes Zoidberg for who he is. And then Zoidberg figures out a way to try and get her to be able to smell again, and she's able to finally get that smell. He's afraid that she's going to leave him because of that, but she doesn't, and it's because she knew who he was before everything else. And it just really shows, just it gives you hope. It gives you some hope here. It's just a really well done episode and a very emotional episode. It's one of my favorite episodes of all time, and I guess I would say in that romance category, being just something that lifts you up and gives you a little bit of hope in life for humanity and people, I guess. Judging someone differently than everyone else, you know, and that's what I like to see. And speaking of that, number 91, we have Long Time from The Last of Us, another one of my favorite romance or love stories from an episode here. Of course, Bill and Frank are absolutely iconic. I love The Last of Us first season here, one of my favorite seasons of all time. And this episode was just absolutely incredible and fantastic here. Bill and Frank, during this world of post-apocalyptic craziness, and them finding each other and being together, and seeing just them grow together, and seeing their journey over the course of 20 years in this hour and 20-minute long episode. It was incredibly done. Nick Offerman was incredible in this episode as sort of the lead role as Bill. And again, just one of my feel-good stories here that if you want to just, you know, have a good time, feel emotionally connected, this is one of my favorite episodes for that. Next here at number 90, we have Endgame from the Queen's Gambit here. This is one of my favorite finales of all time. I think that they do a really great job here at wrapping up Beth Harmon's story for the Queen's Gambit. She had so much trials and tribulations to go through in this entire journey for this show, and just seeing her have all the success with the chess and just the ending of her staying and the symbolism behind it, I thought it was great here. One of my all-time favorite episodes, and again, one of my favorite finales of all time. Coming here next, number 89, we have Crazy Cripples here from South Park. This is my favorite South Park episode of all time. Jimmy and Timmy join the Crips here. They start trying to make this group for themselves. There's this guy who ends up becoming crippled, who Jimmy does not like and is not fond of, and Jimmy wants to start off this group of people who are born crippled, and they join the Crips here, and it's so great and so funny. Those two are so hilarious. I love Jimmy talking to his parents about him joining the Crips, and then of course they want him to take out some punk-ass Bloods, and they inadvertently walk through the crosswalk and cause like this truck to run into a whole bunch of the Bloods, and it kills a whole bunch of them, and they become really tight and cool with the Crips here. And then at the end, you see that the Crips and Bloods are at war as they always are, and Jimmy and Timmy trying to bring them together at the end, trying to make peace and broker peace. And it's just so funny. One of my favorite episodes. Jimmy and Timmy are one of my favorite duos of all time, and this is just a phenomenal episode to just sit back, relax, and laugh. Coming here next, number 88, we have Head of the Snake from Cobra Kai here. Now, there's a lot of great Cobra Kai episodes, but here is my favorite, the season 5 finale, with just this epic fight at the Cobra Kai dojo here, and just the culmination of course, Terry Silver, Daniel LaRusso, the big fight at Terry's place with Mike Barnes, Johnny Lawrence, Chosen. It's just so great and big epic fight. I was really close to putting the season 4 finale as well on here. Season 4 is one of my favorites, and I always love the tournaments that they do, but if we're just talking like an all-out fight scene and just enjoyability, I loved the season 5 ending. So great. Head of the Snake, one of the best episodes. And of course, Cobra Kai, what a great show as well. Number 87, we have Herogasm from The Boys. Now, this episode is very, very infamous here. Of course, all of these superheroes having an orgy. It's just so fucking weird, man. This episode is just crazy. We get to see the first real interaction between Soldier Boy and Homelander, and Butcher here using his powers against Homelander sort of for the first time for real, and great epic fight between those guys, and then again the comedy aspects of The Boys with Herogasm. Just such a great funny episode. And definitely one that balances great action and comedy as well. Coming here next, number 86, we have Pilot from The Blacklist here. Now, this episode, I owe a lot for getting me into The Blacklist. My friend was trying to get me onto it, and we watched the show now, and it's absolutely great. And this pilot was one that just hooked me right away. Just from the first scene, it's one of my favorite opening scenes of all time. It hooked me so instantaneously, and it was one of the reasons why I just felt so comfortable getting into the show. And that's why I owe a lot to the pilot episode, and seeing how this format was going to work out, and seeing just the crazy life of Raymond Reddington here. One of my all-time favorite TV characters now, and just one of my favorite pilot episodes of all time. I absolutely love what this episode does for The Blacklist. It lays it out really well, and again, one of my favorite opening scenes for one of my favorite characters, Raymond Reddington. Coming here next, number 85, we have the Dennis system from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I just love this episode. Dennis here comes up with this system of how to get women here, and the girl here who he goes after in the episode is actually his real-life wife, Glenn Howerton, who plays Dennis on the show. And the wife of him plays the girl he's chasing after in this episode, and that's what just makes it all the better here. And Dennis just explained to everyone how he's able to get girls and what he does, and it's just so off the walls crazy. I also love so many scenes with a lot of the characters in this episode, especially with Frank here. Frank is hilarious in this episode. I love the scene where Dennis, Mac, and Frank are all at the pharmacy, and you find out that Mac goes after the girls that Dennis loses, and then Frank goes after the girls that Mac loses, and it's just kind of this cycle that they have between their group. And Dennis, of course, has this fiasco of trying to get his grandma, Gladys, who's again one of the best side characters on that show, to be his grandmother for this lady, and trying to get sympathy. And then Charlie and of course the waitress, that's a very ongoing thing throughout the show. They sort of have a plot line as well in this. And Dee, she's sort of going through her own struggles and seeing if this guy's like using the Dennis system on her. It's just a funny episode, man, and one that's easily rewatchable. One of my favorite episodes of all time. Coming here next, we have When You're Lost in the Darkness from The Last of Us. I've already mentioned The Last of Us already here, but we have the pilot episode, and again, one of my favorite pilots of all time. Just the way that you're able to be immersed into this world, some of the best like action and craziness that you see in this show. The first 30 minutes is absolute perfection. I do really like the last 30 minutes as well, but the first 30 minutes is some of my favorite TV out there, and did such a great job of building this world that we were going to enter into. Again, one of my favorite pilots of all time, and an absolute classic that I think is going to become iconic later down the line. And coming here next, number 83, we have Fish Out of Water from BoJack Horseman. And now this was my favorite BoJack Horseman episode for a while. Just the way that they are able to show emotion without being able to talk in this episode is great. BoJack, of course, goes to sort of this underworld city trying to apologize to someone who he did wrong, which he does, of course, a lot in this show. And just the way he's able to communicate without using words. And it's just a great, fun little episode here. It's like a big whole blooper episode, I would say, just like a bunch of nonsense. But then you find out at the end that, of course, he could talk the entire time and just had a button to press on his helmet here. But it's just so great. One that I really connected with. BoJack took me a while to really connect with any of the episodes, to be honest with you, but this was one of my favorites from the show here, Fish Out of Water. Coming here next, number 82, we have Papa's Got a Brand New Excuse from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. This is a great episode, one of my favorite drama-related episodes in a comedy show. Just seeing how Will's father abandons him and Uncle Phil comforting Will in that moment, and just the emotion that that brings, the bond that those two have. It's so great. And again, with some of the earlier episodes I mentioned, just having that connection with someone and being able to be affected by an episode emotionally, it makes all the difference, and this episode definitely does that. And coming here next, number 81, we have Canadian Road Trip from That 70s Show. My favorite That 70s Show episode. This is so great. I'm not really the craziest fan of the whole Donna and Jackie plotline in this episode, but the whole plotline of them going to Canada for beer and them going across the border, and Leo just makes this entire episode. I mean, he carries this episode on his back, bro. Leo is hilarious. Every line that he delivers on this episode makes me laugh. Eric, Hyde, Fez, Kelso, all incredible in this episode. Just one of my favorite episodes, just to have a great laugh. And again, that plotline of them crossing the border to Canada, incredible. One of my favorite episodes of all time. Coming in here next at number 80, we have The View from Halfway Down. My favorite BoJack Horseman episode. This is a very infamous episode for being iconic in the TV sphere here, and for good reason. This is one where, you know, BoJack sort of is in this purgatory state, and you get to see all of these characters who you've been following throughout the entire show sort of come back and have their own little impact on BoJack in this episode. BoJack sort of has this little dinner and show with all these people in his life, whether good, bad. You see people like Herb Kazaz, Sarah, Beatrice, and then the phone call with Diane at the end. Very emotional. Just a great way to connect everything in this universe at the very end here with the penultimate episode, and just showing how far BoJack has come in this show. Coming here next, number 79, we have The Contest from Seinfeld here. Now, I have admittedly not seen a ton of Seinfeld here, but this is an all-time classic episode here, and one of my favorites just to laugh at, man. Trying to see who can be the master of their domain for the longest here. It's so great. Kramer cracks me up so much, and in this episode he does the same when he slams the money on the table. Just the main four work so well in this episode here, and again, just a great one to laugh at, and of course one of the most iconic episodes and my favorite from Seinfeld. Coming here next at number 78, we have Here's Negan from The Walking Dead. One of my all-time favorite episodes here, Negan's backstory. Negan's a fan-favorite character, and seeing sort of what his life looked like before he joined the Saviors and became the leader of the Saviors was really great, and I loved seeing Lucille. And again, like I mentioned with the dentist system, Negan's wife, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's wife, I should say, in real life plays Negan's wife in the show, Lucille. So that was a very interesting touch here that they did for this episode, and just seeing the origin of who Lucille was and seeing just how bad of a person Negan was even back then, and trying to make things right. The origin of course, the Bat. It's just a great episode that they did, centering around one of the fan favorite characters. Coming in here at number 77, we have Treehouse from Drake and Josh. This is, again, one of the funniest, craziest episodes here. Drake and Josh get this model rocket. They end up shooting it out the window. It breaks this kid's treehouse, and they have to build this treehouse. And again, just one where if you're looking for a secluded setting, this is one of the better ones at that. Just them getting locked inside the treehouse because Drake forgot to put it out the door hole here, and them being trapped in there. It's so great. Megan, of course, even has some great lines in this episode, but just Drake and Josh carry with their little crazy antics that they have when they're stuck in the treehouse. An all-time great episode from Drake and Josh. Coming here at number 76, we have 1 Minute from Breaking Bad. This, of course, brings the crazy shootout with Hank here, and it's so freaking epic, man. This episode with Hank and the twins and the suspensefulness. This is probably my favorite episode in season 3. Season 3, I think, is a very underrated season, and this episode is really great at showing more about Gus and his intentions in this story, bringing out Hank and the aftermath and the whole beating of Jesse in the RV. It's really great, and again, just the shootout with the twins, probably top 5 scene in Breaking Bad for me. I love it. Coming here next, number 75, we have Saul Gone, the finale from Better Call Saul. I absolutely love this finale. Just Jimmy finally owning up to everything that he did in court and taking accountability here and feeling like everything was earned, you know. For Jimmy to talk out of life with plus 190 years down to 7 years, it's just, it shows you the power of Saul Goodman. But then, you know, he finally admits to everything that, you know, has happened over the course of this entire show, whether it was with Chuck, you know, Kim finally coming back and revealing to Howard's wife what happened with him and everything that he did for Walter White, and then finding out that this was sort of the most enjoyable ending for Saul, because he goes to jail and everyone knows him as Better Call Saul, the lawyer guy, and that he's going to have a lot of connections and be protected in prison. You know, I think that the way that Walter went out and the way that Jesse went out was great for their characters, and the way that they did Saul was great for his character. They just nailed it on all 3 aspects, and bringing this world to a conclusion, it was incredible. Coming here next, number 74, we have Endure and Survive, Season 1, Episode 5 from The Last of Us here, my favorite episode from The Last of Us. This was absolutely incredible, seeing the story of Henry and Sam and Ellie and Joel trying to get out of Kansas City and finding more about the infected and just how crazy they can be. A lot of great action sequences, a great emotional aspects of this episode, especially with Sam and his relationship with Ellie. Great dynamics, and just them trying to find a way out, and just it hits so hard on both those aspects and building up a great midpoint for The Last of Us, and a great episode here. Here at number 73, we have Cooperative Calligraphy here. This is, again, if you like one-setting episodes, this was one of the best at doing that. Annie losing her pen here and them being forced to stay in this room until they find the pen. It was great, and finding out about this monkey that has been coming in and out, and seeing the ending with that was great. And it was just a great, funny episode, putting them all into the study room and just them going back and forth with each other, whether it was Annie and Jeff or even Pierce in there. It's one of my favorite episodes from Community, and that brings me into my next pick here, Cooperative Polygraphy. This, again, with the calligraphy episode, so great. This is, of course, after Pierce has sort of been written off of the show here, and his lawyer trying to figure out everything for Pierce's will and who gets what, and them taking these different tests. It was hilarious, man. I loved that aspect. One of my favorite episodes from the show. I couldn't get enough of what they had to do to earn Pierce's respect and love after he was gone. It was just very funny, and again, 2 episodes that I just had to put back to back. They were so great, so tough deciding between the 2, and they both deserve spots, I think, on this list. And coming here at number 71, we have The Calm Before from The Walking Dead here. One of my favorite episodes in general here, but also one of my favorites from the later seasons of The Walking Dead. The Calm Before with the whispers and just the shocking moment. I was in so much shock with the Pike scene, bro. That was something I did not see coming. I had no spoilers on that. A lot of the stuff from The Walking Dead that was big moments or shocking moments I had, of course, heard about, but this was one that I did not know about, and just seeing all these characters that we had followed for so long and just seeing the impact the Whisperers had on the show was incredible. It was something that really kept me engaged. One of my favorite, I said, aspects from season 9 here, and incredibly done here, and just really bringing the Whispers and Alpha to this whole next level. Coming in here at number 70, we have The Crocodile Dilemma from Fargo, the pilot for Fargo, one of the all-time classic pilots here, and one that if you want to be shocked and just be left stunned and have your jaw dropped, this is the pilot for you. Seeing Lauren Malvo just in action was incredible. Mr. Nygaard here was incredible. His performance was insane here. And of course, Lester becomes crazier even later on, but just his dynamic here with Lauren Malvo here and the cop here, and it was just incredible seeing the stories sort of connect and come together in an epic way at the end. Here at number 69, we have The One with the Embryos from Friends here. This is my all-time favorite Friends episode, and of course, the episode is made by the quiz or the trivia with the girls versus the guys. My favorite scene in all of Friends is, of course, that from the show, and that just makes the entire episode, you know, it was so great. And you know, the one with the embryos, it's supposed to follow Phoebe and her pregnancy here, but that's sort of put to the back burner when you have this competition for either getting rid of the animals in Chandler and Joey's apartment, or of course getting Monica and Rachel's apartment. And like I said, just so funny, so great. This is peak of the Friends just being funny and dynamic and having just this crazy relationship with each other. Number 68, we have 409 Conflict from Mr. Robot here. This is one of the greatest final season episodes of a show here. And this, of course, brings the culmination of the whole White Rose dilemma and bringing down his society here. And Elliot and Darlene are incredible in this episode, getting all the pieces put into place and having everything mapped out and figured out and taking down White Rose and his group here. It was one of my favorite aspects, and just making me feel so good here and so incredibly accomplished and going through this journey. I mean, this was what season 4 was built around, you know, taking down White Rose and figuring out everything that was going on. Elliot here, a great standout in this episode. And I also love Darlene in this episode. bringing everything coming down and bringing again all these big corporations and everything down with the media. It was great to see. Great aspects, and of course what Mr. Robot's about. Coming here next, number 67, we have The Door from Game of Thrones here. This is one of the saddest episodes of all time. Finding out about Hodor and the whole why he is called Hodor is because, of course, hold the door. Bran and the Night King finally coming sort of together here, and just shit being taken apart here. And this is, of course, one of my favorite Bran aspects of the show. I'm not really crazy about Bran's character, but just seeing this episode, it was so emotional, so crazy. And man, when again you see the whole Hodor scene, man, it makes you just shed a tear, man. Coming here next, number 66, we have The Fight from Parks and Recreation. My favorite Parks and Rec episode. I love Parks and Rec, one of my all-time favorites here, and this episode is so freaking great, with Anne and Leslie fighting over whether or not Anne should work at the Parks Department, and Tom opening his new snake juice to the public here, and them going out and just partying and having crazy interactions. I love the whole April Andy situation here where they do a little role play. I love Ron getting absolutely plastered here. It's so great. I love all the aspects and dynamics of this episode. Right in the middle there, season 3 for Parks and Rec. And again, just if we're just going off of comedy, my favorite episode of Parks and Rec, and one of my favorite episodes of all time. Coming here next, number 65, we have 305 Kill Process from Mr. Robot. Now this, of course, dealing with the whole E Corporation and Dark Army situation just finally coming to a head, and Angela really standing out in this episode, Elliot going crazy as well. Just such a great episode here again, like I said, with episode 409 Conflict, where that kind of builds everything that season 4 was sort of going at. This is like where season 3 was heading big time, with E Corp being such a big player here in season 3, and just Elliot doing his thing. And it was so great to watch. The suspense, the drama, the craziness that this episode brought. It was insane. Loved it. 64 here we have The Gang Goes to the Water Park from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia here. This episode, if you just want to have a good time and some laughs, nothing beats this episode for me so far from It's Always Sunny. And man, so of course the gang goes to the water park here, and each group is sort of separated. You have Mac and Dee doing their thing, Charlie and Frank, and then Dennis. Mac and Dee go on this ride where, you know, it's for kids, but they say screw it, you know, fuck the rules, and they get stuck in here, and they're like trapped with all these kids coming down and hitting them, and dealing with that. That was great. You have Dennis sort of trying to hit up this woman, and then finding out about this little girl and trying to teach her the ways of being a mastermind here, and then him finally getting played at the end was such a great twist, and I loved it. And then my favorite aspect was Charlie and Frank trying to hit every ride in the water park here. And of course at the very start they're in line waiting, and they see this kid here who gets special treatment, and then they say that Frank has AIDS, so they're able to get to the front of the line of like all these rides. And then there's this new big ride that's supposed to be coming out that they can't ride yet because it hasn't been released. And they're like, fuck it, man, we're just gonna go up there ourselves. They go up there, and Frank goes down it, and Frank lands in the water. He skins his back because there's no fucking water on the slide. And you find out, of course, Frank has been telling people this whole episode that he has AIDS, and so his blood gets in the water. And everyone just starts going crazy and running around. One of my favorite aspects of It's Always Sunny, man. Frank Dane DeVito is absolutely incredible. I absolutely loved that episode. So great. My favorite It's Always Sunny episode. Coming here next, number 63, we have The Lion and the Rose from Game of Thrones. Season 4 is a top 3 season of all time here. And Joffrey's wedding, I mean, so great. Peak Game of Thrones content here. And of course, the whole situation with the wine, the poisoning, and it was so great, man. Seeing that little bitch go down, bro. I mean, we were hoping for that since the first episode. Incredible. Tyrion is top tier in this episode. Just everything is set so well. Even characters that I hate in the show, like Cersei, who I can't stand, just does a great job of giving off so much emotion in this episode. Incredible. 62 here we have How Your Mother Met Me from How I Met Your Mother, an all-time classic episode here, finding out about Tracy and sort of her life throughout the 9 years that we saw with Ted, and having everything come full circle, seeing so many references here and callbacks, and seeing just her life and the emotions that she's gone through. They did a great job in such a short amount of time of showing everything with the mother leading up to this point, and it was so great. I love the song here that she sings, you know, that Ted hears, and it was incredible, especially finding out what happens later on in the show. One of the most emotional episodes for How I Met Your Mother. And then coming here next to number 61, we have Grilled from Breaking Bad. If you just want like a high-paced, testosterone-filled, you know, epic, classic episode, this one is for you. Tuco is off the walls, batshit crazy. He abducts Walt and Jesse here and takes them out. And this is the first time you see Hector and the bell and the burrito, him throwing the burrito off the table, and Tuco just losing his shit, and you know, holding Walt and Jesse at gunpoint, telling about his cousins and how they were going to cook in the jungle. It's just fucking crazy, man. If you want an episode which is batshit crazy, gotta watch Grilled again, man. Grilled is one of the all-time classics from Breaking Bad here. And of course, Hank at the end and Tuco going crazy on each other in the shootout. One of my favorite aspects from the show, getting a top-tier scene, and Tuco is a top-tier villain for any show. Coming here next, number 60, we have Josh Is Done from Drake and Josh. Another one of the more emotional episodes or drama-filled episodes in a comedy here, and this one was incredible. Josh here, of course, being done with Drake after he screws him out of getting to this chemistry test on time. But you see how when Josh removes Drake from his life, how much better his life becomes, how much worse Drake's life becomes. And there was a really great aspect from this episode because, again, with Drake and Josh, Drake's always the one in all the special treatment, is always at top, and Josh is always the one getting screwed, and they flip it around in this episode, and that's something that I love to see here. And just seeing Drake at the end, after he's thrown into the chemical shower here, after his experiment goes crazy, after him and Josh have a falling out in that chemistry class, and just him finally giving one of the best performances here, Drake, the speech that he gives to Josh here, so great. I love the whole ping pong battle that they have at the beginning and the end of the episode. It's just a great emotional episode, and Roy showcasing Josh very well, and also, like I said, one of the better acting performances that I think Drake gives in the entire show as well. Here at 59, we have it Meanwhile from Futurama. Now, of course, they are rumored to come back with a season 11 here, but for season 10, the final episode, this one was incredible. You see the professor makes a device that can stop time or set time back for 10 seconds here, and Fry is trying to impress Leela, take her on this big extravagant date, and you see how he abuses the device here, and time ends up being stuck, and only Fry and Leela, of course, can live out their lives, and that they do just that over the course of this time. And it's incredible. Just, again, if you love the character aspect and following Fry and Leela this entire time, that was great. And the professor finally finding a way to sort of undo everything. Just peak Futurama. Loved the whole Fry and Leela dynamic. This is probably one of my favorite dynamics that they have throughout the show. But also one of my favorite dynamics is number 58 in the late Philip J. Fry here. This, of course, Fry and Leela trying to go on this date, but Fry, of course, is late to everything, referring to the late Philip J. Fry. But they also play the late, meaning in passed away, because of course the professor's inventions. The professor has a time machine that only goes into the future here, and Fry, Bender, and the professor get stuck in it, and Leela, you think, gets stood up here, and eventually finds out that Fry is gone here, and just the toll that it has on her. And as Fry and the professor and Bender go into the future, they meet all these new types of civilizations, people, and it's so great. And like I said, you can only go into the future here, so they end up just going, as far into the future as they can until they find a time machine that can take them back in time, but they never end up finding that. So towards like the end of time here, you see the message that Leela had left for Fry here, how much she really cared about him. And what they end up doing is, of course, going back into the time machine and watching the end of the universe here. And this is something that I think has been theorized so much, just even in science. They go so far in time that there's a second Big Bang that happens, and it resets the cycle of life all over again, to where they're able to go from being in their current timeline and fast forwarding so far into the future that the second Big Bang brings them all the way back to the start of the universe. And it's, again, just an endless cycle that a lot of people have theorized, that the world does work like that everything is just in an endless cycle here. And I just think it gives such a great telling to Fry and Leela's story, as well as funny aspects of Futurama with them meeting all these new people throughout time and history. Coming here next, number 57, we have the Massacre at Hawkins Lab from Stranger Things. I love Stranger Things, one of my favorite shows of all time, and this is my favorite episode from Stranger Things here, seeing, of course, Eleven's backstory with the numbers. And that was something I've always wanted to see from the first season here, is Eleven's, how she's going to interact, or her backstory with the other numbers here, and seeing number 1 here, and just finally having the reveal of Vecna and having it be so great. I thought it was really well done here, and just seeing how crazy and twisted and messed up, and of course finding out about the massacre. That's something they opened up with in season 4, this whole massacre of these numbers, and what happened. We think 11's the one responsible, but it's really number 1 here. And it's just such a great aspect to this show, and something that I really loved. A lot of great backstory on 11, and telling the whole story of 11, 1, and Brenner, and how everything kind of came to be in Hawkins, and the start of all of the weird shit happening in Hawkins. Number 56, we have Digital Estate Planning from Community, one of my all-time favorites. I love Pierce-led episodes here from Community, and this is one of them, where Pierce's father ends up building like this digital game, and Pierce and all the gang tries it. And I love the whole cameo with Giancarlo Esposito in this episode, and just them being involved in this video game. It's so funny, and them going throughout this world. And for someone who's a huge video game fan, especially in my younger days, it definitely hits home here, seeing just such a creative episode that I've never seen done on TV before. One of my favorites here. Coming here next, number 55, we have Flight from Prison Break, the season 1 finale. So great, and we'll get to more Prison Break here, but this is an all-time classic here. Just them, of course, fleeing at the end of them finally escaping here, what happens with T-Bag and his situation, them just trying to fend for themselves. And it's so great, man. You're so on edge, so suspenseful here. It's a great end to the season. My favorite season of all time. I absolutely love it. And just nothing beats what Prison Break was able to do from start to finish in that season. Coming here next, number 54, we have Bowling from Malcolm in the Middle. I have talked about this episode on my channel before. This is an incredible episode here with the alternate timeline where Hal or Lois takes the boys bowling here and seeing just how different everything becomes, whether, you know, Reese is on top or Malcolm's on top here of their little games that they be playing. Seeing just how much Lois embarrasses Malcolm while there, and Hal and his little routine of trying to bowl a 300. Again, one that hits close to home because I was a bowler through much of my life here, so an episode I can connect with, and just seeing the family and again seeing something unique and something that hasn't been done before in TV, especially in Malcolm in the Middle with this whole alternative timeline situation. It was really great. I mean, here next at 53, we have The Day Will Come When You Won't Be, one of the all-time most recognized episodes in TV from The Walking Dead. We have Negan's introduction here, or, you know, he was introduced really formally in The Last Day on Earth, the season 6 finale. And that one, you know, I think it's a lot of hate just because of what happened when it aired. And that one, of course, here is one of my favorite episodes from The Walking Dead. And yeah, The Day Will Come When You Won't Be, when everything comes to a head. Negan, of course, does his thing, bashing in the heads of those, and showing so much fear into the group here with the lineup, and then just dog walking Rick here throughout this entire episode, showing him who the fuck he is, and just being as charismatic as Negan is, and leaving Rick to die, and having Rick for himself, and just showing the group, you know, we're not fucking around with you guys. Great to see. Absolute peak menace Negan is in this episode. Coming here next, number 52, we have A Rock and a Hard Place from Better Call Saul. Absolutely great conclusion to Nacho's story here. And the opening scene to one of my favorite scenes in the show, the ending scene with Nacho showing his true colors here. Pretty much saying F you to Gus, F you to Hector, and of course holding both hostage here before eventually, of course, taking his own life here. And it was just great. Something that, you know, we figured was coming, but when it finally happened, it was great. And like I said, just Nacho going out on his home terms and giving him one of the best conclusions I've ever seen. And just an epic badass way to go out. What a Nacho way to do it. And that leads us into number 51, No Way Out from The Walking Dead. And this is, of course, a great peak Alexandria moment here, where the walkers sort of finally invade Alexandria and trying to get the group out safely here. This is also where we get the first real run-in with Negan and his men here, and the mention of Negan and the Saviors here, with Daryl and Abraham, and them just, again, dealing with all the walkers is insane. I was really glad when Jesse, Sam, and Ron all went. I couldn't really stand them from Alexandria, so that was great here. And of course, finding out with Carl what happens with him. Great in this episode, and an all-time classic here. Coming here at number 50, we have Sanctified from Ozark here. This is my favorite Ozark episode here. This one is just crazy with the cartel coming in, Wyatt and Darlene, of course. One of my favorite scenes. Ruth here just finding out and going absolutely berserk here on Marty, and Wendy here is just so great. The emotions that this episode has, the culmination, seems like, of you know, Ruth finally coming and being full on out here, the cartel being more involved than ever at this point. It was incredible. Great episode here. Coming here next, number 49, we have Proxy Authentication Required here. This is, of course, one of the most infamous episodes from Mr. Robot. And this episode is very unique. It is presented in these different acts here. And again, it's another one that takes place in one singular space here. And you get one of the craziest plot twists I have ever seen in a show. Just the emotions in this episode are sky high for Elliot here. And him talking with Krista and Vera being just thrown back into the mold here as this antagonist who sort of laid low throughout season 4 and then coming out of nowhere to surprise Elliot here. And just the conversations that these three characters are brought together with, and again, finding out about who Mr. Robot is and finding out about Elliot's father and the whole twist with that. It was incredible. So much emotion and so great. Coming here next, number 48, we have Chicanery from Better Call Saul. Now, Chuck's here in his speech. I mean, so quotable. One of the best moments in the show. Jimmy and Chuck just finally going at it, coming to a head here with this whole legal battle. Finding out, of course, about Chuck's condition and, you know, whether or not it's really in his head or not. And Hugh will make an A-grade appearance in this episode. But like I said, just having all this build up for this big payoff between Jimmy and Chuck here, and Chuck's outburst in the courtroom. It was incredible, man. One of the most emotional, again, episodes in TV that I've seen, and just such great acting here in this episode. Coming here next, number 47, we have Michael's Gambit here from The Good Place, the season 1 finale. Good Place is one of these shows that I would consider one of the most perfect shows if I had to consider any show perfect here. I will say that the twist, man, as you rewatch The Good Place, it's like it seems a lot more obvious than it was, but man, when you first get that twist, man, you were just like, oh my god, man, they're just throwing us all for a loop here, and Eleanor being the one to figure it all out among all people here. Crazy here. And it's just so great finding out Michael's true colors here, and the core 4, as I like to refer to the 4 people as. Just crazy episode here. One of the best season finales that I've seen. Coming here next, number 46, we have The Laws of Gods and Men from Game of Thrones here. Tyrion's trial is some of the most top tier shit that I have ever seen, man. That scene is just so rewatchable here. I demand a trial by combat. So chilling here, man. You get goosebumps just hearing it, man. He is so great here after all the events that happened throughout the start of season 4, and Tyrion, of course, being pinned against the wall and always trying to find a way out, man. So great here. I just love the trial. I love Tyrion, Tywin, Jaime, Oberyn. Just the characters are freaking phenomenal. Like I mentioned, Game of Thrones season 4, one of the greatest TV seasons ever made. And also from that season, we have here next the Watchers on the Wall here. This is the whole culmination of the Wildlings versus the Night's Watch at this big epic battle. If you love the action scenes in Game of Thrones, Watchers on the Wall is so great. You have the whole emotional aspect with Jon Snow and Ygritte. You just see just these giant wildlings and the giants, and caring about even some of these side characters at Castle Black, man, is so great here. Seeing the wildlings versus the Watchers, man. Again, if you like action fight scenes, this was one of the better episodes in doing just that. Coming here next, number 44, we have Pilot from Prison Break here. Prison Break has my favorite pilot of all time. Like I said, from start to finish, it is a perfect season for me. It's my favorite season of all time. Just seeing the whole conspiracy among Lincoln and Michael getting into Fox River and revealing the blueprints at the end, man. Goosebumps, chills down your spine, man. I absolutely love it. Again, another one like The Blacklist where I was just hooked, man. After this episode, it's like, man, I cannot stop watching. Like, I have to know what happens. And that's one of the reasons why I love Prison Break so much. It's just so bingeable, so rewatchable, and so enjoyable. Coming here next at number 43, we have an Officer and a Waldo from Family Matters here. I've mentioned before on my channel that this is one of my favorite comedy episodes of all time. This episode I've seen so many times. I can quote almost in this entire episode here, where Waldo, of course, moves in and kind of cock blocks Eddie unintentionally here, and Eddie, of course, calling him an idiot, and then Waldo being sent off and going off to the army here, and Steve and Eddie trying to get Waldo out, and Steve's interactions with the Sergeant Robert Shiska. Hey, your name's backwards. It's Shiska Bob. Just so great. The whole grenade scene, the whole fall in line scene, like just everything. And I have a friend who's in the army, and I had to have him watch this episode before he went off to basic training. Man, it's like anyone who's in the army or just like has any military experience, I feel like would love this episode, just being so fucking weird. And then I also really like the side plots in this episode with Carl and him not being able to fucking fix anything, and the fridge being all crazy. And but of course Steve and Waldo and Eddie just take the cake in this episode. And it's just one of the most rewatchable episodes for me. Coming here next to number 42, we have A Fixer of Sorts from Banshee, my favorite Banshee episode of all time here. I love the whole Nora versus Burton fight scene, one of the best scenes in the whole show. I love, Lucas Hood, who we know has had the identity change from the first episode here, and his son Jason, of course, being in trouble with Brantley here, and finally find out who this Brantley guy is, and Lucas being stuck on like this moving fucking death trap that he has, man. Just so great. That, along with the whole Nora and Burton scene, makes this episode so great, so emotional. And even Lucas's relationship with other people in his life at this time just all goes crazy in this season 3 episode. Right here, number 41 is going to be That's My Dog from 6 Feet Under. This, when I first watched this episode, man, it just took me by so much surprise, and how much I enjoyed this episode. David being captured and just being forced to do all of this crazy shit throughout the night for this guy. It just, something about this episode just clicked with me, and I have always just felt some type of way towards this episode. Like I said, there is other plot lines as well in this episode, but that is like the main focus here, of David being held up and by this guy, and this guy ends up like, sort of haunting him over the course of the rest of the show. He pops back in throughout the series here, and references, and even makes some sort of an appearance in the finale here. It's just so great what they did with this one character, and him, like I said, just holding up David and having him drive him all over the place and getting out money, and thinking David's gonna freaking die here. Like, it was crazy. Just an episode that was so suspenseful, left me at the edge of my seat, and just really connected with me by the end of it. Coming here at next, number 40, we have Lane Peipe from Sons of Anarchy. Wow, another one that just broke me, man. This episode just freaking broke me, with them being in jail and wagering which one is going to die here. They are just so in deep with Pope here. Jax and Tig and Chibs and Opie, and Jax, we think Jax is going to be able to solve this, my call. And then Opie just fucking steps in and does what he has to do to protect the club, and Jax and everyone, Chibs, Tig, watching as Opie, of course, is laid out by this group. And the whole Lane Peipe scene, so emotional, so crazy. The journey we have gone on with Opie in this show was crazy, man. He was one of the fan favorite characters, and just seeing everything that went down in that episode, crazy. Number 39 here, Endings and Beginnings from Dark. Dark here, an incredible show, and this episode here, the season 2 finale, so great, where you find out everything that's been going on with Jonas and Marta here. Adam is swooping in here towards the end, and it's the culmination here of one of the greatest seasons, season 2 of Dark, and just figuring out everything that's going to go on, how they're going to escape this, the different timelines that they're going through, and the ending with the nice little plot twist here, which I really did enjoy, and setting up such a great season 3 opener here. This was just an amazing episode, so emotional, especially again for Jonas and Martha. Really carrying this episode. We're here next, number 38, we have Skip's story here from Regular Show. A great episode on Skip's backstory and figuring out why he skips and changing his name to Skips, and figuring out how Skips became immortal and the love of his life, and just getting more depth and analysis on Skips and making his character just even that much more awesome and cool, man. I absolutely love this. I mean, this was one of the most beloved episodes from the show, and for good reason, man. They did a great job of just giving Skips so much and finding out so much about his character. It was incredible. Coming here next, number 37, we have Stress Relief from The Office, one of my favorite all-time comedy episodes. The cold open still is my favorite scene in the entire show. Absolutely incredible, hilarious, can watch it all the time. Of course, Stanley having the heart attack, and Dwight with the whole CPR scene always gets me every time. One of my favorite comfort episodes of all time. Coming here next, at number 36, we have Bagman here. Bagman was my all-time favorite Better Call Saul episode before season 6 here, and this one was just absolutely incredible, with Saul going out to the desert to pick up the money from the twins and being ambushed, and just that shootout scene, and Mike coming in trying to save him, and them trying to just find their way back. It was just such a great episode. I love just a lot of the aspects of this episode, and just Mike and Jimmy coming closer together in this episode as well. Coming here next, number 35, we have Point and Shoot from Better Call Saul as well. This is, of course, the whole culmination after Plan Execution, which we'll get to a little bit later on this list. Point and Shoot, man, with Lalo just being absolute menace, man. Kim and Jimmy dealing with the aftermath of the previous episode. It was incredible. I really feel like you can just clump those 2 episodes together and put them as one, and you gotta watch them that way. But the way that they aired them, you had to wait like a month in between the 2 episodes, and they just did such a great job with this. I think this episode is incredible. Just the tension with the whole Lalo Gus situation, even though you know what was gonna happen, man. You're always on edge. You're always trying to figure out what's gonna happen. How are they going to tie this story together? And they did an incredible job at that, and just again building such a great villain in Lalo this entire show. Coming here next, number 34, we have Shut Down R here from Mr. Robot. This is the season 3 finale. And this one, right when you think Elliot and Darlene and all them are going to be held off scot-free here, and Dom was going to be all right and take down this group, the Dark Army, man, you just get thrown in like, nope, this is not how it's going to go. You get a whole cameo from Leon here in this episode, who was great, and Irving as well was a fucking crazy motherfucker in this episode, taking out the FBI agent, and then of course reassuring Dom that, you know, what will happen if she crossed the line against the Dark Army, and you're part of the Dark Army now. That scene, man, crazy. You know, season 3 again deals with the whole E-Corp, but this is really the introduction of where White Rose is going to be a just big antagonist, the main antagonist for the show moving forward into season 4, and they do a great job here in the season 3 finale. Coming here next, number 33, we have Swarley from How I Met Your Mother. I absolutely love this episode, one of my favorite comedy episodes of all time, with them going to this coffee shop and throwing a little diss at friends, and Barney's name being written as Swarley on his cup, and then making fun of him the whole episode. It just never gets old to me. I think it's hilarious, and just picking on Barney the whole episode. I mean, what can go wrong with that? I mean, so funny. The jokes are incredible. I love the ending when he walks into the bar and they all say Swarley, and of course playing the Cheers theme song after that. It was just such a great, funny little episode that they did for How I Met Your Mother. 32 here, we have the Mountain and the Viper from Game of Thrones. And this episode, man, if you want to talk about an episode where I was just like shocked, like my favorite one-on-one scene in Game of Thrones is the trial by combat with Oberyn versus the Mountain. I rewatch that all the time, but it's to a point where I can only watch to a certain point and then I have to turn away because we all know the Melon situation, man. And that was just fucking insane. I mean, again, I'm not someone when I watched Game of Thrones who knew everything about the lore in the books, but as I have gone along and learned more, it's just crazy. And Oberyn being one of my favorite characters, the Mountain being such a great antagonist, and just so much at stake in this episode, so much that was going to be effective moving forward, and them just doing such a great job with it. Incredible. And leading us into number 31, we have Blackwater, which, of course, another Game of Thrones episode here. This is like the first really big battle for Game of Thrones. Stannis and his fucking army is coming into King's Landing, and of course they have to defend it. Tyrion, Joffrey, the Hound, bro. This is like the Hound's best episode, man. The Hound fucking, he has so many great lines in this episode when he's going into battle and he says, "Any man that dies with a clean sword, I'll rape his fucking corpse." Or he tells the guy, "Fuck the water, bring me wine." He tells Joffrey to fuck off. It's like, man, the fucking Hound, bro, so great. Love him in this episode. And again, just Tyrion figuring out how to outsmart Stannis and his army makes Tyrion such a great character and such a great episode. Coming here at number 30, we have Exit 9B from Regular Show, my favorite Regular Show episode here. Similar to The View from Halfway Down from BoJack Horseman, this brings like all the characters back that we have seen in the previous seasons here, and it's like all the antagonists, and Mordecai and Rigby are trying to save the park from it being destroyed here and built for a highway, but they erase like everyone's memory, so they have to try and jog everyone's memory here, and they have this big epic fight with all of these old villains here, and it's insane. One of the craziest episodes, and far from regular. My favorite Regular Show episode. A amazing episode here. Here, number 29, we have An Endless Cycle from Dark here. This episode was probably the one that made me the most emotional here from Dark. It was just so incredibly well done. My favorite scene in the entire show comes from this with Jonas talking to his father here. That is such an emotional scene, especially if you find out everything that happened in the first season here and just their relationship in general. It's just such a hard-hitting moment. And Jonas and Martha as well. They have such a unique connection here in this episode, and just finding out more on how everything is connected with each other, and like I said, it being an endless cycle. So finding out just like how Jonas, you know, how he's able to stay alive, and it's such an emotional episode, and just really hits you all at once. And coming here next, number 28, is going to be The Paradise, which is the season and series finale for Dark here. This episode was great. A great series finale for the show. Claudia, of course, figuring out the loop and figuring out how to destroy the knot, outsmarting both Adam and Eve here, and becoming like the savior, and finding out about H.G. Townhouse and like his family, and of course what started this all, and being able to save that, and you know, bringing things back to normal, or you know, bringing peace to everything that has gone on in this crazy world of suffering that these characters had to endure. And it was a great way to cap off Dark, and an amazing episode here. Number 27 here, we have Born Free from Dexter, the season 1 finale, man, with so much great intensity and so much great moments and suspensefulness that they had brought all season for Dexter season 1. They capped off with such a great final episode here, with the ice truck killer being the main antagonist, you know, and Dexter trying to figure out everything that has gone on, and Deb being kidnapped. And this episode just was a great end to an amazing first season. This great story of the ice truck killer being one of the better antagonists from Dexter here. Absolutely loved it. Dokes was great in this episode as well. And just seeing Dexter's first real, you know, taken out of a big bad here. One of the main season villains here. Great to see. Coming here next, number 26, we have The Secret Box and Band Geeks. Of course, like the other SpongeBob episodes, this one is mainly for Band Geeks here. The Secret Box is really great as well. Patrick holding the secret box from SpongeBob and him trying to figure out, you know, what's inside the box. And Patrick, of course, revealing at the end what it is. You know, SpongeBob thinking it's just a string, and it's the picture at the Christmas party. But mainly Band Geeks here. I love this episode. You know, it's a classic for being the best episode of SpongeBob, but there's so many great moments in this episode. Of course, them rehearsing for the band, their performance at the Bubble Bowl, and Squidward finally coming out on top at the end. Like how I mentioned in Drake and Josh, how Josh was always done dirty in a lot of those episodes, and Josh is done. He really get to see him finally shine. They do the same here with Squidward. He's always being screwed in all the other episodes of SpongeBob, but this is the one episode where he ends up winning at the end, and it was amazing to see here. That performance was legendary, and one of the greatest just standalone episodes of all time. Coming here, number 25, we have Goodbye from the Wonder Years. This episode is so emotional, so heartbreaking. Kevin and his relationship with the teacher, it's so relatable. And of course, finding out everything with Mr. Collins, and just all the trials and tribulations that he had to go through along with Kevin here. And my favorite quote in the whole show, "You don't have to grade it, it's an A," just hits so differently, and it always just is crazy finding out everything that happened in that episode with Mr. Collins here, and Kevin sort of dealing with grief and loss here. It's something that we all got to go through, and so emotional. Coming here next, number 24, we have The Blue Comet from The Sopranos here. I absolutely love this episode, the penultimate episode to The Sopranos here. Such a great episode with New York finally trying to take control here, and then putting out these hits on everyone on the Jersey crew, and Silvio and Bobby, and eventually, you know, they're coming for Tony here. A very suspenseful episode. So much just happens in this one episode here. Phil just sort of takes over here, and it's builds for a great way to sort of end this series, or get up to conclusion of this show, and just showing the effects that being in the mob has. Coming here next, number 23, we have Crawl Space from Breaking Bad here. This is such a great episode where the tension with Gus and Walter is like at its peak at this episode. Like, Gus is just ready to do anything he can to get Walter to leave, and we see him just threatening Walter, and Walter trying to escape here. We see him trying to use Ed, and the realization that Scour gave the money to Ted, and him just screaming in the crawl space, trying to figure a way out of the situation. It was incredible. One of the most classic and amazing episodes of all time from a great show in Breaking Bad. Coming here next, number 22, we have Final Grades from The Wire, the season 4 finale. Man, season 4 was such a great season, and seeing just everything that happened with the kids and the school system, incredible. The realization of everything coming together here at the end with them, and then of course Marlo standing out as this crazy antagonist for the show, and Bodhi being just done so dirty, man, and just hitting so hard on that level, man. Final Grades is incredible. Wrap up to the school education end of the story, as well as introducing us into what's going to be in this final season, the fight to capture Marlo here. And coming here number 21, we have the Winds of Winter here, the season 6 finale for Game of Thrones. This one is absolutely epic with two storylines. The Cersei blowing up the Sept storyline is something that had been culminating since the end of season 5, and one of the few moments where I actually fuck with Cersei in this show and just going out crazy like that. We get the realization of Jon Snow in this episode, and that really starts becoming to light, and them trying to develop that as they move forward here. And then Arya finally getting the revenge on the Freys here after all this time from the Red Wedding. It was absolutely incredible. One of my favorite episodes of all time here. Coming here at number 20, we have the We Are from Severance here. And I have been very vocal to my friends about this episode, about how much just better it gets every time I think about it. This episode is incredible. With Severance, the plot twist we knew it was going to be coming eventually, with the whole, you can only know about work at work and your personal life with your personal life. When are these going to finally overlap? And the We Are just takes 40 minutes of television and tells this incredible story here, man. It sets up so much for season 2 that they have to answer, and Mark here, the protagonist of the show, great here. And even the realization at the conference here was incredible. Each one of the main 4 characters goes through so much in this final episode, trying to figure out and put the pieces together for themselves, and them just going off on their own while also being connected together. It was incredible. Every time I think about this episode, just the better it gets. Coming here at number 19, we have Jurassic Bark here. This is probably my favorite, like, sad episode, you know, one that is so emotional and hits so different when Fry is able to find his dog from the past here, and, you know, they have this interaction and bond. But then seeing the realization of what happened back in 1999 when Fry went missing, and the dog sitting and waiting out for Fry every single day, waiting for him to come back. It was heartbreaking, man. It's like seeing the loyalty of dogs, and actually losing my own dog a few months after watching this episode. It just really hits different, man. Seeing like the connections that people have with their pets, man, and having so much emotion in that, and like I said, the bond that you have between pet owner and the pet itself, it's crazy and makes for a great emotionally attached episode. Coming here next, number 18, we have the children from Game of Thrones, the season 4 finale for Game of Thrones. You know, season 4 is absolutely incredible, and seeing everything that was going to happen with Tyrion after the whole trial by combat situation, it was like, how is Tyrion going to escape this? And, you know, Jaime finally helping him out, and seeing all the aftermath too of the Watchers on the Wall, and Tyrion like making this escape, and just disregarding and disgracing Tywin was just a crazy way to end this season. And, you know, Game of Thrones really never gained the peaks they did after season 4, but just season 4 from start to finish was insane, and they nailed it with this final episode here. Coming here next, number 17, we have Whenever You're Ready from The Good Place. The Good Place, man, like I said, just so well done, and this episode was incredible. After all the hardships that they had gone through this entire time, they do such a great job of bringing out this question of, you know, if we live forever and, you know, you have unlimited time to do everything, when is it going to come to a point where you've done everything and there's nothing left to do anymore? And they create this little door to where if you walk through the door, that's it. That's it for life. And you sort of become this speck that kind of, it's like a spirit on Earth sort of deal here, to where you could be like a good or a bad action for people on Earth. And it's a really great representation of this entire show, just the actions that all these characters take and the solution that they're able to come up with, and finding a way to beat this system. And after all they've gone throughout the show, and Michael getting his chance to finally experience what it's like to be a person on Earth, and going through and again relating so much to life and the hardships that we have here on Earth. And you know, we don't know what the future has in store for us in the afterlife, but just having trust, you know, and being the best that we can be on Earth is, they sort of leave that message in this finale here. Number 16 here, we have Hello Elliot, another series finale here for Mr. Robot. This is my favorite episode from Mr. Robot. Just after Elliot has this whole realization of this world that he is sort of ingrained into his mind here, and you get the whole twist of Elliot and his multiple personalities, and of course Mr. Robot, the mastermind, his younger self, and his mother, being the 4 personalities that Elliot sort of takes on, and finding out about just going back on everything, and how Elliot you know, was really never there. You know, this is like where we thought Elliot was. He was like the mastermind this entire time of, you know, being this vigilante hacker, and the realization at the end, and just life flashing before his eyes in the cinema and the cinematography of this show, and Darlene, you know, ending with the Hello Elliot line. It was just incredible. I loved it. Great way to end this show. Coming in at number 15, we have Papa's Goods from Sons of Anarchy here. An amazing episode here. I love the symbolism that they use with Jax in the final episode here. You know, with him sacrificing himself for the club in a very spiritual way here. I felt like the homeless woman, who has been a symbol throughout the entire show of, you know, a lot of people interpret her differently as, you know, death itself, John Teller, Jesus. You know, there's so many different interpretations that you can make with this homeless woman, and just the culmination of Jax's story and the Sons. It was amazing. Great finale here. Come here next to number 14, we have Everyone's Waiting from 6 Feet Under here. This is an amazing finale, man. The final 10 minutes of this, showing the fall of all the other members here, and really connecting it back with, you know, the cold opens that they would have in all these episodes, and showing how death is something that we can never escape, but it's something that is going to be there, and showing the way that all these characters go out, and some good, some bad, some last a long time, some not. It's just, it's the craziness of life, and I just love it, man. Just the way that they are able to show the Fisher family here, and everything that they've gone through throughout their time here, and like I said, just connecting it back with the cold opens for the show. It was incredible. I loved it. Coming next is number 13, and that being Felina here. Breaking Bad's finale was absolutely incredible, with Walter and the machine gun, and finally getting his revenge. Again, a lot of symbolism in this episode from the title name, with Felina, with the elements sort of spelling out, you know, finale as an anagram, and then of course being blood, sweat, and tears. This is just a great episode for Walter going out and freeing Jesse and taking out Jack and his crew, and Walter's final conversation with Skylar, telling her, like, you know, he did it for himself and how connected he was in the business and how alive he really felt and just taking control of something for once in his life. It was incredible. Coming here next, number 12, we have Go. This is where Prison Break is, you know, they finally do their little escape here, and from start to finish, this episode had me glued to the TV and so suspenseful, and everything that they've been building up all season comes to a great headway here. I love the way that they did this escape, you know, something that I was like, how are they going to just do this, man? But they did it, man. They had a lot of things figured out here, and just getting all these pieces put together. I think they did a really great job in this episode. And coming in here at number 11, we have No Sanctuary. No Sanctuary is my favorite The Walking Dead episode of all time. Terminus was such a ominous place here, and when you finally get there and see how crazy these motherfuckers are, and Rick and the rest of the group finally, you know, just taking them out, Carol becoming the savior for this group, and Terminus, I think Gareth is a crazy antagonist for this series. And like I said, Terminus had such a big impact on me. It was something that, like, they built up for like half of season 4, and season 5 you get started with, you know, how the fuck are they going to get out of this? And it was crazy. Great fight scenes, just great culmination of where does the group go from here after this episode, and really making The Walking Dead just so great. And now here we are to the top 10 episodes of all time here. Man, these were always ones that were going to be tough to choose from, but man, the top 10, we have a lot of great picks in here. And starting off with number 10, we have Pine Barrens. My favorite Sopranos episode of all time. One of my favorite comedy episodes of all time. Just so great. Chris and Paulie are undefeated in this episode. Even Tony's hilarious. I love when Bobby gets all suited up to go and get them, and Tony just, you know, breaks his balls, man. And Chris and Paulie being trapped in the van and eating the ketchup packets. And the guy was an interior decorator. He killed 17 Czechoslovakians. So great. This episode's hilarious. So rewatchable. Just bringing comedy to The Sopranos, man. Amazing. Coming here at number 9, we have Slapbat from How I Met Your Mother. This has been one of my favorite episodes of all time ever since I've seen it. You know, this is a classic one here. Robin is, of course, holding out the secret of why she doesn't like going to malls here. And Marshall and Barney make this bet. Marshall believes that, you know, she was married to someone else here, while Barney thinks that she did porn, and that Robin's just holding out on everyone. And you find out about whole Robin Sparkle situation. It brings about this whole Slapbat situation that goes throughout the entire show and is a running gag, and it's just so great, so rewatchable, such a funny little concept for an episode like this. Coming in at number 8, we have Battle of the Bastards from Game of Thrones here. Such a great epic fight scene. The great culmination of Jon Snow and Ramsay's story. I think they just did so well. I felt so satisfied as a viewer this episode. You know, Jon finally just going out. I will say some logic gets thrown out the window here in this episode with the whole Jon Snow surviving this entire fight, and of course Rick Khan just pissing everyone off and not running in a zigzag. But for the most part, man, I think that this episode is great, with probably the best action sequences on TV, and a great conclusion and satisfying for that motherfucker Ramsay fucking Bolton. Next at number 7, we have NS from Sons of Anarchy. The first episode being SO, and the final episode of season 3 being NS. This is just everything I wanted to see from the culmination of season 3 is in this episode. You know, with all of the shit that went down in Ireland, we get to see Lenny the Pimp's first appearance here with Otto talking in prison, how to get Jimmy off Phelan. Of course, buying out the Russians, where we think, of course, did the prince turn rat with Jax and them. It's a whole ploy to set up Stahl, but you don't see that coming until the very end of the episode when they're going off to prison. And, you know, this was a part of their whole plan to take out Stahl here and Jimmy at the same time. It was great. Just such a satisfying conclusion for the members of the Sons, and you know, kept me on edge the whole episode long here. So great. One of my all-time favorite episodes. And coming in here next, number 6, we have Face Off. What a great name for this episode, being the face-off between Gus and Walt, and literally having someone's fucking face blown half off. You know, like I mentioned with Cross Brace, that was like the highest point for Gus and Walter, but this is like, you know, one of them's got to go at this point. You know, either Gus or Walter is going to take this. And, you know, we know Walter's the main character, but Gus is so formidable. And you're like, man, what is Walter got to do to beat Gus here? And even Jesse's involvement in this, where Jesse sort of gets turned between Gus and Walt, and he plays such a big factor in this as well. And Gus and Walter, man, they are just top tier performances in this episode. Of course, Hector going out like a badass motherfucker, man. Going to the DEA, fucking going crazy on Hank. Great aspects to this episode. Absolutely loved it. I mean, one of the all-time classics right here. Coming here at number 5, we have Plan and Execution here. I mentioned with Point and Shoot how that was sort of a 2-part episode here. But oh my god, this is one of the best episodes. This is probably the best episode that I have ever seen live on TV. I was there watching, man. And when I say I literally flipped out, bro. I literally flipped out so bad with the final scene with Lalo, Howard, Jimmy, and Kim there, man. It was insane, man. Like, Howard, bro. Howard deserves so much better. Howard deserved the world, man. He just got played so hard. And the greatest situation of being at the wrong place at the wrong time, man. Just absolutely epic. Greatest episode that I've seen live for TV. Coming in at number 4, we have Middle Ground from The Wire. Another one where you're just left stunned by the end. The whole Stringer versus Avon situation that had been boiling up through season 3. Omar and Brother Mazone, another big plot line in season 3, coming together at the end. And Avon, you know, turning on Stringer, and Stringer just becoming so in over his head this entire season. And the culmination of his character and Omar and Brother Mazone just taking him out, and it was just being such a great episode, man. In that aspect, season 3 is one of my favorite seasons. You know, the introduction of Marlo in this season is great, and of course, Stringer just going out like that. It was so well done and written so well on The Wire. Coming here at number 3, we have The Getaway from Dexter here. Dexter season 4 finale, man. Arthur Mitchell, the Trinity Killer. This is one of the greatest moments in TV history. Still the most shocking moment in TV history I have ever seen. With, of course, the bathtub scene at the very end of season 4 here. I know a lot of people love the Red Wedding, and that episode was very close to making my top 100, but for me, the biggest shock was the bathtub scene in Dexter's The Getaway. Arthur Mitchell, the Trinity Killer, is, in my opinion, my favorite antagonist of all time, and just seeing the whole ending with him and Dexter and who is going to win this, and just so much going on, the stress and suspense that you feel. You know, you don't feel it in a bad way. It's like a good sort of sensation of suspense and drama, and like I said, just shocking moments. And I loved loved this episode. Coming here at number 2, my favorite comedy episode of all time that I have seen, probably 20 to 25 times by now, Remedial Chaos Theory from Community. This is one of the greatest concepts of an episode I've ever seen. The group is out just hanging out, and of course they have ordered pizza, and Jeff decides to roll a die to see who is going to get the pizza. And of course, having 6 sides means 6 different alternate storylines, which I've mentioned. I love those types of episodes, and each timeline just gets crazier and crazier, and so much happens, and it's such a unique episode and so rewatchable, so funny. The darkest timeline, the ending to the darkest timeline, man. It's so hilarious. I love it. It never gets old to me. I believe the whole episode is uploaded here on YouTube for free. Definitely check it out. I mean, watch Community, and you gotta see this episode if you haven't already, but I'm assuming that you guys have already checked it out. I know you guys definitely have seen Remedial Chaos Theory. If you haven't, it's one of the greatest episodes in TV history. But coming in here at number 1, I know it's cliche, but it's going to be Ozymandias here. The more I think about this episode, the more I think it just really deserves that 10 out of 10 rating. You know, I wanted to pick a different episode because I didn't want to be, you know, that guy who puts Ozymandias number 1, but it's just so freaking good, man. I know a lot of people think it might be a little bit overrated, but I still think that the shootout scene with Hank and Jack's men is the best scene in the show. Hank's line to Walter, "You're the smartest guy I ever met, and you're too stupid to see. He made up his mind 10 minutes ago," is still the greatest line, I think, in the entire show. Walter's phone call with Skyler is one of the greatest phone calls in TV history. Him going and saying, "We're a family," and just the emotion that Bryan Cranston brings out in this episode. It's incredible. One of the best acting performances of all time, and from start to finish, so great. Like I said, one of the best openings of the episode, just throwing you right into that shootout that they leave you with in that last episode, Tahaji, man. So great here. Greatest episode for me in TV history. So yeah, guys, that is going to do it here for my top 100 TV episodes of all time. Leave a comment down below saying your favorite TV episodes. You can put 110 or however many you feel like, just showcasing some of your favorites of all time. I'd love to see that. Definitely still a lot more shows to check out. Might in the future, down the line, make an updated version of this, but for right now, I really enjoyed this list and showcasing a lot of these different shows for you guys, and hopefully spark some interest, and of course talking with you guys about these episodes as well. So yeah, that's gonna do it, everyone. Take care and peace out.